This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, do we have a tug of war going on in WWE? WWE v TKO? I don't know. We're going to talk about it. Also, WWE having TNA matches canceled. We're going to discuss that as well. We also have your AEW predictions, because this is your AEW Dynasty Go Home show. Help me break it all down, sort it all out, give his wonderful predictions. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc John Macaroon, and he's coming to us remote. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I'm in Sandusky, Ohio. The kids are doing their sports competitive thing, so it's very fun. Finally get a chance to relax. So after we talk wrestling, I'm going to be sitting by a water park, getting all wet and enjoy my weekend. Hopefully, my daughter's volleyball team gets a win because, you know, up and down season, but I'm always looking forward to spending time with the family and always, you know, wrestling and water parks. That's a good start to a good weekend, as well as the Masters and AEW pay-per-view. Oh, my goodness. But because we got to start with what everybody is livid about. I mean, literally, when you recognize that corporate entities take over wrestling, it can ruin the creative process. You've always said it throughout the course of this special podcast, which we are at episode 400, a special edition. We have never let corporate entities ruin our project here, but guess what happened? You have a great story that everybody wanted to see. Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes. And nope. Did they want to tell a story that was 20 years in the making, history, legacy, dads? No, let's involve Pat McAfee. Let's involve celebrities. Let's take it in a direction that nobody really wants to see. I understand why. It's to sell tickets. It's the same old, attitude era. Let's have a corporate entity, and that's TKO, and now they're going to be positioned as the bad guy. But I think because just like the Masters, it ties into it. Nobody wanted to see Jason Kelce, Kevin Hart, The Miz at the Masters. The Masters sells itself. It's a beautiful, luscious course steeped in tradition. This feud that has now taken place with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton really has been rendered insignificant. Nobody wants to see Pat McAfee. It's disappointing. It jumped the shark, and the wrestling world did the right thing by pushing back on it. So I'm disappointed they went this direction. Look, they're going to try to fix it. I liked what CM Punk was able to do with his promo. But in the end, you had a ready-made story, and you chose not to tell it. Is it crazy, or is it just trying to get from 40,000 ticket sales to like 45,000?
It kind of feels like it's that. It feels like it's trying to get from 40,000 ticket sales to 45,000 and try to get as much money squeezed out of the public as possible. And look, to catch everybody up on speed, this is what took place. Cody Rhodes comes out and ends up cutting a promo late in the show on Friday. In the promo, he says at one point, everyone who represents McAfee, and I know you know who I'm talking to, can kiss my ass. And then you follow that up and you double down with what took place on Monday Night Raw, where CM Punk essentially did the same exact thing. CM Punk comes out and says in his promo, if you want to talk about ticket sales, call up the agent that was foolish enough to shoehorn you into this business and this show and tell him to lower the ticket prices. So they're talking directly to Ari Emanuel. He's the guy at TKO who basically runs WWE now. He's the guy who was very instrumental when John Cena was having his retirement tour and forced The Rock into that situation. Then we had really awful storytelling with what's going on with The Rock. And you never seen The Rock again. He showed up once and then you never seen him again. So this is a guy who is always looking to make the most money, the biggest boom, the biggest buck, and what he's doing is he is impacting and he is puppeting WWE creative. And I think the fantastic thing is Triple H isn't very happy about this. And Triple H essentially has allowed a guy like Cody Rhodes and a guy like CM Punk to go out there and just do their thing. Both of these promos, neither one of these were scripted. Both these promos, these guys were both told, hey, go say what you want to say. They gave some bullet points for highlighting different parts of the show that's upcoming up at WrestleMania. But essentially, they said, you want to say something? Go say something. And they both have said something. And there's been a bit of a reaction from TKO. Ticket prices have come down, but it sounds like a lot of people within WWE, not just Triple H, not just Cody Rhodes, not just CM Punk. It sounds like a lot of the other wrestlers and a lot of the other people who work for WWE are quite upset with TKO because of how they're handling a lot of WWE's entities, right? So like how they're handling WrestleMania, how they're handling the ticket sales for WrestleMania, how they're handling the creative. Like you don't ever need the corporate office getting involved in creative. It just messes stuff up. And you've already seen, as good as Triple H was his first couple of years, he has struggled. He has struggled a lot to tell good stories. So you getting involved in messing with the business is making it more difficult for him to tell semi-coherent stories that get us slightly interested. The insertion of Pat McAfee into all of this, not needed. We didn't need any of this. And if you wanted to do a surprise for whatever this was, the guy who was getting Randy Orton more in touch with the old Randy Orton, if you will, you could have done anything, but just not this. You could have went with Ric Flair. You could have went with a returning Kevin Owens if you wanted to. You could have went with, I don't know, maybe it could have been Triple H. You got to remember they were part of a faction at one point. Same thing with Batista. You could have went in any other direction. You could have went with, I don't know, Liv Morgan. It's something else. You could have made Charlotte Flair. You could have made anything else make sense. And here's the thing that's messed up. Randy Orton at one point during a promo and during addressing why he's upset about this is his whole thing was, I'm here to remind Cody Rhodes that wrestling has more than one royal family, making it seem like whomever that person was that was basically tapping into this hardcore version of Randy Orton, that they too have a wrestling lineage, that they are they have a father or a grandfather or somebody else who has come before. And what you end up getting is you get Pat McAfee. And look, you and I have both talked about McAfee. We're both fans of McAfee. We both think he has done a fantastic job, basically being a geek off the street, coming in, learning the business, and doing a very good job in the business. And we think he was a fantastic commentator. But you don't need to insert him into this storyline. You don't need to sit there and try to drive up ticket sales with this because you're doing the opposite. And essentially what this is it's Ari Emanuel trying to negotiate a deal with Netflix for Pat McAfee. That's exactly what this is. So you're using WWE to try to boost up one of your clients. To me, that just doesn't work, especially when we're at WrestleMania. You don't need to do that. If this was a B-level pay-per-view, just something, fine. But not WrestleMania. This is the biggest one of the year. This is the one that sets up in caps certain storylines. So you're going to have doors closing and new doors opening up, and we're going to be starting new journeys with different wrestlers. And it's supposed to help set the arc for what the next year is supposed to look like. And this is not what you need going into it. And it's been an awful build. Like WrestleMania has been an absolutely horrid, dreadful build, and this just makes it worse. It's just another black eye. The ticket prices alone, remember this, you are going back to the same exact venue that you were at last year, and what you've done is you've essentially charged 200 to 400% more for the same exact tickets, and honestly, it's probably going to be a lesser show. To me, all of this is just a gigantic bumble and a massive fumble by TKO getting involved with WWE. And look, I say kudos to a guy like Triple H. Let your wrestlers go out there and speak. Let your wrestlers go out there and talk. Let them go say what they've got to say. I think the promos by Cody Rhodes and by CM Punk have been absolutely fantastic, and I think it's been spot on. And the word on the street is ticket prices have come down a little bit, like TKO is realizing. But I think at this point, it's just trying to put butts in seats. So at WrestleMania, you don't have a bunch of empty seats in the stadium. This is the other thing that's messed up. The wrestlers are so upset. Usually, when you're wrestling at WrestleMania, you can get tickets for your family, for your friends. You can usually get anywhere from like 5 to 10 tickets. You can bring that many family members. TKO is limiting what the wrestlers can do. And here's the thing, it's not a sold out show. You've got seats everywhere, but they're only allowing wrestlers 2 tickets. That's it. If they want any more, they have to pay what the public is paying.
Oh,
These are people who work for your company and are breaking their back for your business and breaking their back to sell this show. And you can't respect the wrestlers enough to give them the tickets for their family and friends. To me, it seems like TKO has overstepped their bounds. What are your thoughts on TKO's? It just feels like they're tone deaf at this point. It feels
yeah.
like they are just out of touch with what the wrestling public is, and it feels like they are out of touch with their own product.
No. See, I look at it differently. I look at it like everybody is aware. Like Triple H is aware of this. This was discussed, and obviously he's a product of the Attitude Era, where you set up the corporate entity. The Mr. McMahon is TKO, and so TKO is the bad guy. I don't feel like this was haphazardly done. They thought about it. And they said, okay, we want to build a real story that people can relate to. What's the realest story? TKO. And so remember, Triple H has said this like 6, 7 times on the show Netflix on Real. Like, we work them. So this is all the decision that was made. I don't think like TKO is being nefarious. Of course, they want to represent Pat McAfee. They like his brand. They like what he brings to the table. He's talking about WrestleMania every single day on his show. He's tweeting. He's using his audience to pump up WWE, and the ratings did go up the last couple weeks after it. But I just look at it from just a simple creative standpoint. Yes, you generated more buzz by having this, who is the guy that Randy Orton is talking to. But creatively, it makes no sense. It bastardizes the story. Randy Orton needed Pat McAfee to remind him he was the Viper just 1 week after he whipped the ass of Cody Rhodes. Like, it's Randy Orton. Like, you don't need an influencer to remind Randy Orton he's the Viper. So it just creatively is weak. And creatively, you went in a direction that the company went too exotic with in terms of, and here's the thing, cuz you also got to look at it. This is just going to go beyond WrestleMania. It's going to set up like, okay, if Randy wins, he's the authority figure, or TKO is now the boss, meaning that some workers may not work. They're going to be the authority, like Vince McMahon. And then the hero, Cody Rhodes, is going to save the day at SummerSlam, which is fine. But just in terms of the story, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, the seeds were planted 2 years ago when Cody came back. Like, the fan base wanted it to be a story about legacy, tradition. The number one thing that fans love is, hey, Randy is an old school guy, had a relationship with Dusty Rhodes, Cody Rhodes. I looked up to you, Randy. The stuff would have been legendary, but it got to the point where I think they came to their decision as to how to unveil the angle too late. Like, WrestleMania is next week. It didn't move the needle that much, other than pissing off a bunch of fans. But I can see where they're going with it. They're setting up us versus them. It lets CM Punk do the anti-hero type of thing, another pipe bomb. That's fine. I liked it. I don't think it was something that he just went rogue. They just said, hey, go talk about stuff, and all the stuff that CM Punk talked about will grab attention. It's just, to me, and like many other wrestling fans, the corporate villain is played out. Like, Triple H already did it. He was the authority. Remember with Stephanie McMahon and Shane? They've already done. This is the third go around with the authority versus the babyface. It's lazy. It's and also, you didn't have to even, like I said, you don't have to involve non-wrestlers, because in essence, when Pat McAfee trashed WWE, he was saying, well, the guys that you guys paid $500 for, they're garbage. So what message does that send? Just listen to the message. You're telling all the fans, well, yeah, the product that you guys have been bitching about really does suck. You don't need to say that. I think that the simple thing would have been, this company doesn't need to go and have Cody as the top of the card. That's all he had to say, was bury Cody. You don't bury the company. You don't bring that stuff up, because in essence, then, if I would have bought a ticket for WrestleMania for $1,000, me and my daughter, or me and you, hang out at WrestleMania, and Cody and Pat McAfee's like, well, this product sucks. It's boring, and all it is wrestling. Then I would feel like, man, I just feel like I wasted my money. to support this product. And I get it. I get it. You know, Pat McAfee now is a heel. I just don't care about it. I'm just disappointed, and I'm just turning my attention now. Whatever that does, if the only thing I need to see is I need to see Randy Orton win it, and then let's see what happens in the future. But I'm more interested. I'm just not interested in that feud anymore. That's what that did. It's like I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. I'm more interested in Seth Rollins and Gunther and Brock Lesnar, and I'm interested in CM Punk. So that's what it did. It just took a feud that I was interested in and took me right out of it. That's what it did. Do you think that, some people said, looking at it from how you view it, do you think this maybe kind of diminished Triple H as a booker? Do you think that within 2 years, if he can't control TKO's influence, all the celebrities, do you think that Triple H might be the beginning of the end of his run? Some influencers are saying, you know what, they'd be surprised if Triple H is on the job beyond 2027.
I would be surprised if Triple H wanted to stay.
Wow.
Like you have to remember, he's old school. So he has these storylines in his mind and he has these things crafted out and he's got stuff laid out and he's doing things months and weeks and sometimes in certain cases even years in advance. And then you've got a guy coming in who just parachutes in and is like, nope, we need to change this. We need to change this. We need to change this. There have been some emails or some text messages that have been released about when Vince McMahon was coming back.
Yeah.
And Vince was adjusting things for WrestleMania. What was it? 40. I think it was WrestleMania 40, where he had Roman winning because Cody was supposed to win. He was like, no, Cody will win the next year. And like he had concerns about Vince getting involved and changing his plans. So I think Triple H will be the guy who will probably pick and choose if he wants to do this anymore because I could just see him getting fed up and just being upset. And look, it's his name that's attached to all of this. It's not like it's Ari Emanuel's name attached to it. It's not like it's TKO's name attached to it. You think about it. When we sit there and we bitch about the creative and we drag the creative through the mud because it's dog shit, we're bitching about Triple H. We call Triple H by name. We say it's Paul Levesque.
Come on, Paul.
Paul Levesque's creative is trash. That's what we say. We don't say Ari Emanuel's creative is trash. No, we're saying that it's Triple H. So I could see him just being like, I'm fed up. I'm done. I'm out. You guys can figure it out. And he could just chuck a deuce and just leave. I could see that taking place, man, because it really feels like, and honestly, it kind of sounds like he's getting a little fed up with some of it.
Yeah.
And it just, at what point is enough? You've seen what they've done to ticket prices where they've just gone crazy escalation on those. And that's been one of those things that they've been laying out this plan for a while. I mean, when you're charging buku prices for B-level pay-per-views in random small towns, that's kind of a dickhead move, kind of a shitty move to do. And they've been doing that for, I don't know, 2-3 years now. So now we're at the big one. We're at WrestleMania, and you've just now ratcheted everything up 400% from what you did last year, and it's in the same venue. So this is a TKO mindset, and this is a TKO driven company now. So I could see that driving a guy like Triple H out and him leaving. So it's going to be something that we're going to have to monitor, and I'll be interested if the creative can get better. Because the way I see it right now, it feels like we're on a very slippery slope. And the creative is just a bit of the frustration. There's so much more that's kind of wrapped up in it, like the ticket prices, like the frustrated wrestlers, like just the I would say the stink that goes along with doing things like this. It's just not good. Something else real quick before we transition to AEW, something else not good. Did you see Liv Morgan's head? She tweeted out an image of her head, dude, and it looks like she's got a head on top of her head. Like, nuts. If you didn't catch it, on Monday night, Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez are standing face-to-face in the back. They're having a conversation about Roxanne Perez and her loyalty to Finn Balor and just kind of like where that leaves them inside the Judgment Day and how Liv Morgan is doing this for the betterment of the Judgment Day and for Roxanne Perez, only for the heel to get attacked by the babyface, Stephanie Vacour, from behind as she got shoved into Roxanne Perez's head. And now she's got essentially take your fist, put your fist on top of just above your right eye. That is essentially what Liv Morgan has going on top of her head. It was nuts. Like if you didn't even have to see it, you could just close your eyes and you could hear the skulls cracking together. Very dangerous. I want to get your thoughts on what her head looks like. And again, the creative. Why would you have the baby face blindside and attack the heel when the heel's in a defenseless position? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That's why I'm turning it over to you and asking you what your thoughts are.
Yeah, look, they positioned Stephanie to be a tough badass. I get it. But you got to be safe. You got to be careful. I mean, the mission is, the objective is to, in professional wrestling, make it appear that you're hurting people. It's not to bump noggins. That can cause serious damage. That's a nasty nugget there. That's a woof. It's all over social media. You can see it. But look, man, you got to be safe. You got to be careful. Some people were concerned the match might be off. I think it's still going to go on. It made the official card, so we shall see. But my goodness, Stephanie, you got to work a little safer. You're right. It doesn't make sense in regards to kind of the way the story is, but that's how WWE has been operating. Where if the idea is traditionally to do X, they've tried to do stuff a little differently with Y. Brock Lesnar's feud has kind of been more traditional with, okay, these are two behemoths. Other feuds have gotten a little bit of some attention. This one's going to be interesting in terms of the match. So I don't care about the build-up because I just want to see the result. I think it's going to end up being a match that you and I are going to rave about. So I'm excited to see it. But yeah, Stephanie's got to be a lot more careful. My God.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And like I said, it was gnarly to hear. Like the sound of it was brutal. It just not good. And again, the creative, not great. All that being said, this leads us into AEW. We've got a pay-per-view. This is going to be another one of their jam-packed pay-per-views. Get your seatbelt strapped on. Prepare to watch this pay-per-view until, I'm assuming, midnight, maybe 12:30. This might be one of those pay-per-views where the doc has to break it up into chunks and watch it over a couple of days because it's going to be another long one. We've got a bit of an early card. I'm assuming we're doing this before Saturday night. I'm assuming after Collision, there'll probably be another 2 or 3 matches added to this card. But this is the card that we have available right now, and this is what we're going to run with. Again, jam-packed show, a lot going on, and there's a lot to talk about coming out of this week's Dynamite. So we kick this show off with our pre-show. We've got Alex Windsor taking on Marina Shafir. I think all of this is going to tie into something that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. That being said, I feel like Marina Shafir needs the win. She's coming off of a loss to Toni Storm. And again, no shame in losing to Toni Storm, but I feel like you were doing such a great job of building her up and making her look like she was absolutely lethal. I feel like she needs to get back on that winning track. I feel like she needs the W here. I feel like she beats Alex Windsor, even though you could make the same exact argument for somebody like Alex Windsor. Who do you have winning this match?
No, Marina Shafir, 100%. I agree with you.
All right. Moves us into our next match. This is for the AEW TNT Championship. You've got Tommaso Ciampa, Mascara Dorada, and there's going to be a bunch of other wrestlers named in this gauntlet match. If you pick the right wrestler, if you nail the right guy, you get a bonus point because at this moment in time, we don't know who else is included in this. This is going to be one of those things where they're going to roll it out and you're going to be surprised as these guys come down. Now, Kyle Fletcher did get hurt. Fletcher suffered an injury during a match on the March 28th episode of AEW's Collision, where he teamed with Mark Davis to face off against Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz of the Rascals. I just kind of want to talk about Fletcher getting hurt here, right? I feel like Fletcher is now one of the faces of AEW. Him getting hurt, and again, we don't know how long he's going to be out. I feel like this is a monster blow to AEW, but here's the thing. They've got a stacked roster. They will be able to absorb this. They'll be able to take this hit, and they'll be able to move on. But I think for Kyle Fletcher, it kind of sucks. This was a guy who had his title. He ended up giving it over to Tommaso Ciampa, who ended up giving it back to him. We thought that was a little bit wonky. There was a reason for it as far as trying to get the new guy over and such and such. But I think this just bad timing for Kyle Fletcher. I think he'll be fine when he comes back. Just bad timing. What are your thoughts on Fletcher getting hurt?
Yeah, man, it sucks. It's just like, man, we were talking about who needed to have a big year. You, me, Kenny, everybody said it's Kyle Fletcher. He established himself with great matches. And now It's not going to happen. That sucks, but it is what it is. You got to keep it moving. And there was some big news in regards to a return this week with AEW, so they can go in a different direction. And the top of the card of Dynasty should make people really kind of forget overall about Kyle Fletcher. Hope he comes back healthy and reclaims his ascending top spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you have winning this match? I'm going to go with Tommaso Ciampa. This was the guy that Fletcher lost his belt to. He earned the number 1 overall spot to get into the gauntlet match, so he'll be the first guy out there. I think they do something special where he outlasts everybody and beats everybody who comes down for that belt, and I think he gets the win and he gets his belt back.
Yeah, it's a good choice, right? You know, you got a lot of people that have a chance for this belt. I wonder if there's going to be a special return, if anybody else is going to be in it. So, but I think that, you know, obviously somebody that needs a push. So I agree with you 100%. I got to go with Tommaso Ciampa. I think he's the best choice. You got to keep him strong, especially as you bring him over. So I hope to have a chance to see this opportunity, and we'll see if maybe do we get Jay White? Maybe, but I don't know. We'll see. But I hope there's a return. I hope it's fun. But I'm going to stick with you and follow suit. I think it's going to be Tommaso Ciampa.
All right. Our next match, it's the Young Bucks versus the Don Callis family. It'll be the Bucks versus Okada and Takeshita. The thing is, if Takeshita and Okada can work together and be successful, Takeshita will get an opportunity to face Okada for Okada's belt. So I kind of feel like that tells you a lot of what's possibly going to take place. All that being said, you look at a team that needs a win and a team that's coming off of a loss, and there's going to be a match later on in this card where I think they're going to set some stuff up for a match with the Bucks later on. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Bucks. I think what happens is Okada and Takeshita actually melt down and fight each other like they did a little bit on Dynamite this week. So I'm going to go with the Bucks. Who do you have winning this match?
Okay, I have to take some chances here. It's down to WrestleMania time, so I'll go with Okada and Takeshita. Let's see how some wonky way the Callis family can. I think the Callis family needs some momentum. I mean, they're there, and I like what Andrade has been doing, but I feel like they need a big win. So give me Okada and Takeshita, and let's see what happens, how they can play it moving forward.
All right. Our next match is Chris Jericho versus Ricochet. This was set up on Dynamite, and this is something I wanted to talk about. Jericho brought back the list. If you were a fan of Jericho when he was in WWE and you were a fan of the list, he brought it back, and it was fantastic. And it saved this segment.
Yeah.
I felt like Dynamite started off so hot, and it was like an hour and 10 minutes of just rocking and rolling, and it was fantastic. And then Jericho came out, and he cut a pretty self-congratulatory promo. He seemed a little bit off. The crowd seemed mostly into it, a little bit more than the week prior when he showed up. But to me, the promo itself derailed what was a really, really good show. And then Ricochet coming out really brought it down another couple of notches. And look, I'm a fan of Ricochet. I just, these two standing across from each other, it's just tough for me to watch this. It's hard. And especially them two going back and forth was difficult for me. Like I said, the list saved it, but overall, I felt like this was the cold water on your prom night. This really brought down a show that was really, really good as far as a go home show goes. All that being said, Jericho's re-debuting. I'm going to go with Jericho, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So I got Chris Jericho.
Yeah, if you don't think Chris Jericho is going to win, Adam and John, Doc and Jock, we're going to tell you something. You just made the list. So hell yeah! I hope Chris Jericho wins. It was cool to see. His last two promos have been fun. Like we said in regular discussion, I just feel like his introductory promo back little too long, but that's how Tony Khan does it. I'm looking forward to the run now that Chris Jericho's back, ending all rumors of a WWE return. So if you were a fan of a retirement tour, it ain't gonna happen soon with a 55-year-old Chris Jericho, who is in good shape, by the way.
Yeah, he looks like he's in fantastic shape. All right, our next match is going to be FTR versus Cage and Cope for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. This is where I talk about a match that's setting up for the Young Bucks. I think Cage and Cope win. You're in Canada. You're in Vancouver. I think this puts a little bit of a nail in a coffin with the storyline between FTR and Cage and Cope, but it also helps spur on what's coming next, and that'll be a match and a feud against the Young Bucks. So I've got Cage and Cope winning the tag team titles.
Ooh, yeah, I think that's the right way to go. It's going to be fun to see. Listen, this run has to be special, and I think it will be. I look forward to the new title reign from Cage and Cope.
I almost skipped one here. We've got a match here between Thekla and Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's World Championship. I want to say this about Thekla. I find her to be pretty outstanding. The promo she cut on Wednesday was incredible. I think she's got this little punk rock, edgy emo thing going for her. And like I think she looks hot. I think she looks great in the ring. I think she looks scary. It's this weird combo. She's got this weird little dynamic about her. And the promo she cut where she seemed like she was seething at the teeth was fantastic and really drew me in to this match that they're going to have. I got Thekla retaining. I think she's a fantastic women's champion right now.
Yep, no doubt about it. I think Thekla is going to do a good job. This is a match I've circled to say, okay, I hope that the opportunity with more time, the women can also do some great things on this pay-per-view this time around.
All right, we've got Andrade taking on Darby Allin. I feel like this is probably the most coin flippy match that can ever be coin flipped. Darby Allin is looking for a shot at MJF. If Andrade wins, he's promised something. You've got a match with Kenny Omega that's around the corner. So I feel like this match could go any which way. That being said, I'm going to go Darby Allin in this. I feel like Tony Khan has this love affair for the guy who throws himself through everything and probably isn't going to make it to see his 35th birthday. So I'm going to go Darby Allin.
Yeah. This one's tough. This is probably the toughest one to predict. I got to be bold. So give me Andrade El Idolo. I think there's a push there, and it's time to give some of these guys that you've brought in some opportunities here. So give me Andrade. I think that, his gimmick has been good, strong. And like I said, this is a night for the Callis family, in my opinion.
All right. So you've got Andrade. All right, nice. Next match, we've got Jon Moxley taking on Will Ospreay. Look, I thought this was a fantastic open to the show. You had Jon Moxley and you had the Death Riders beating up Will Ospreay only for a truck to roll up, and basically everybody from the United Empire, everybody from New Japan showed up, and these guys fought all over the arena. And then this was essentially your main event. You had this multi-man match. It was men and women fighting, and I feel like what we're setting up for is not just for a great match that we're going to have on this pay-per-view, but we're setting up for Forbidden Door. I can see us having multiple matches from this multi-man, multi-woman setup where you have at least 3 or 4 other matches on the Forbidden Door card. I'm excited for that. Like I said, this felt amazing. I think Will Ospreay wins it here. I think he takes the belt off of Jon Moxley, and I don't think it's a bad thing for him to take the belt off of Jon Moxley. I think Will Ospreay wins. Who do you think wins this match?
Yeah, no doubt. It's the ascent of Ospreay. You got to get him back on track. Will Ospreay takes it down. Hopefully he stays healthy, and it's a good match.
All right, this brings us to our main events. You got MJF taking on Kenny Omega for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. This was something that I've been feeling for a couple of weeks, and I just kind of threw it down. I wanted to get your sense and then get your selection here. Does this feud between Kenny Omega and MJF, does it feel like it's just a filler, like it's just a placeholder program? Like, you've got Darby Allin in the wings, you've got Swerve out there on the periphery. Obviously, we've had whatever we've had happen with Hangman. To me, this just feels like it's a bit of a placeholder. I don't know if Kenny Omega is able to get the job done here. I think if Kenny Omega does get the job done, you have Swerve outside looking in. You've got possibly Andrade out there as well. But to me, it feels like MJF's going to get the win. This is going to be a really, really good match, but I don't think you need to look too deep into it. I think you know who's going to win this match.
Yeah, no doubt about it, right? I think when you look at it, I feel like, with MJF, you feel like, all right, this is the guy that's the placeholder of the company, and you got to promote him. Now, there was some side stuff with TNA, and that's all cute and stuff, but it would be hard pressed for me to see Kenny Omega winning it. I see MJF being the guy that is going to face Will Ospreay in Europe. So give me MJF, but it's going to be a classic. This could be one of the best matches of the year.
All right. We'll take a look at calling the card. I've got a 5-point lead on you. We look back at the card. We both have MJF winning. We both have Will Ospreay becoming your new AEW Continental Champion. I've got Darby Allin winning. You've got Andrade winning. We both have new tag team champs as Cope and Cage dethrone FTR. We both have Thekla retaining. We both have Chris Jericho retaining in his return. I've got the Bucks winning. You've got Don Callis' family winning. We both have Tommaso Ciampa being your new TNT champion. And then we both have Marina Shafir winning in the pre-show match. Are you ready for some news and notes? Very brief this week. Very brief news and notes, but we do have some news and notes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I will say, as we always do, if you only can watch a couple podcasts, Triple H showed up on Cody Rhodes' podcast. It was very enjoyable. And a podcast that reminds me of Doc and Jock and how we do things. Coach and Vince Russo spent an hour, Jonathan Coachman and Vince Russo spent an hour with Tony Khan. You have to watch it. If you get one of the two, watch that. They spent an hour not really interviewing him, but basically telling him what they didn't like about AEW. They critiqued him, and it was very professional. But Tony Khan stood in and said, here's kind of why I do things. And you got to listen to it. It's a powerful hour where there's enough praise, but a healthy amount of constructive criticism. And they put Tony Khan in the hot chair, the hot seat. And I think that's how interviews should go. And it was awesome. And Tony Khan, I give him a lot more respect for how he answered the questions. You may not agree with how he answers it, but he states definitively his positions. And everything that you and I have said and Kenny have said, Vince and Jonathan Coachman said right to his face. I recommend you watch it. And a lot of good content this week in podcasts, just like this fine episode here, 400 of our podcast. Cousin, hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So we already talked a little bit about the Cody Rhodes and the CM Punk promos and kind of what they mean for what's going on in the background with WWE, but more stuff going on with WWE, and this time with their partnership with TNA. WWE is having TNA cancel matches, and WWE has reportedly been involved in some of TNA's booking decisions. These decisions are for matches against AEW talent, most notably Nick Nemeth and MJF squaring off. Speaking to the Youngstown studio, Nemeth opened up on the match being canceled and the explanation given to him by the TNA president, Carlos Silva. He said, we had a phone call. He said, because of certain deep into contractual obligations, certain companies might have crossed over with certain other companies that we are now their rivals or streaming services or cable companies. He goes on, because of that situation, and it's debatable, and there's a few of them, we have to do the right thing now. It's going to be a hard choice, but long-term it covers their butts legally for everything. Nemeth would go on to explain why the match was so important to him, and he stated that he's absolutely crushed by the match being canceled. So It appears as though WWE does not want TNA. Again, TNA at this point is attached to the hip of WWE. It's part of the reason why they got that massive TV deal that they got was because of their affiliation with WWE. Because of that, when WWE asks for a favor, you've got to oblige. And in this case, we're missing out on some really fantastic matches, such as Nick Nemeth and MJF facing off. There's been a ton of other matches involved with this as well. A few in GCW and a few other smaller promotions where TNA talent could not face off against AEW talents. So WWE is wielding the strong fist. But that's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes, my brother.
Man, thank you guys so much for your support. We took a couple weeks off. It was nice. A little bit of a break because I think WWE, AEW got a little predictable, and it gave Adam and I a little chance to get more perspective on what's going on. And we thank you guys for your continued support. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. We appreciate the opportunity to drop in some wrestling memes in some of our comments in Detroit sports. It's fun to be part of the wrestling community and to break down the pay-per-views. And next week is going to be an extravaganza. We'll try to get through the AEW review as fast as possible, but the focus is going to be WrestleMania. And I can't wait to break it all down next week on the next episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.